We're back, and joining us today is Chris Lynch. Chris, how are you?
I'm fantastic.
Thanks for joining us.
I was honored to join you.
Well,
so thank you.
We're glad to have you. So you've got like a couple of projects going on,
Yeah.
right? So the first thing that I think a lot of folks know mostly about is Dust of Suns.
Yep.
Right? Tell us what the inspiration was, how that got started.
Okay, so back, I would say what really kind of led to that group? I was studying accordion. And I learned all these, and my mom asked me to learn accordion because it was her favorite instrument. And this is probably like 15 years ago now. But she said, Chris, I'll buy you an accordion. And you'll take lessons and you'll play. And then secretly in the back of her mind, what she really wanted was to take lessons with me. Like she had never learned an instrument. She was like already in her 70s by this point. And I said, absolutely, let's go. So every week I would take my mom to this crazy German woman in Burnsville. And we would go every week. And she was like super brilliant, like just a brilliant woman. But I just loved that vibe of the French cafe music. Like it really is nostalgic if you ever listen to it.
Sure.
You can find if you go onto Spotify or YouTube, just look for French musette playlist. And it'll just take you away. Very beautiful music. And I was working on stuff, and I went up to Festival du Nord, which is like a music fest. Mm-hmm. And I was invited to go up there by Dana. Dana Thompson was kind of doing it at that point, like setting up the festival and booking the talent. She asked me to come up and play some songs. John Munson had always gone to Camp du Nord when he was a kid, so he was up there. He and I were very familiar because he had worked with the Picadors when I was in the first rock band I was in. John Munson produced our records.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And I lived with him. So I lived with him at that time.
Okay.
And so he also was helping coordinate up there. And I brought my accordion and would play during the dinner hour. And then I'd do more pop stuff, but I kind of my mind really went to that accordion. I like the idea of making more atmosphere music, kind of wallpaper music. A lot of musicians will call it, where it's just in the background. But I just liked that better because I felt like it felt like for me to get up and kind of strut around in a rock and roll manner just did not, I felt a little imposter-ish by this point. And I don't know why. I love rock music and
okay.
I love Mick Jagger and all that, but it was just didn't fit. And so I was doing it. And while I was at Fest du Nord, John Munson was there. Anna Roberts was there with a cello. Fela was there with a harp. And they asked us to play at their Peace Point thing on a Saturday morning, one of the events during this weekend of music. So we just read music. I read a couple accordion pieces. And they would just read along. And it just sounded great. And then when I finished that gig, I stayed in touch with those guys because I'm friends with them anyway. And I just thought, I can write this music. Because I had learned hundreds of these French musettes. And so it was just simple little melodies, A and B parts, nice little feel to them, nostalgic kind of chord changes. So I started writing, and then I brought them, and I said, guys, let's make a record. And Munson thought, you know what, we should move you to piano. So I just translated all my own pieces and started working on piano because it just fit better. I was better at piano than accordion at that point. And,
okay.
So that's how it started. The four of us made a record, and I just crowdsourced it. And it was called Dreams for Hannah. It was kind of like I had to rope my wife into that. And I found this beautiful self-portrait she had done. And it had this very old-time look to the record. I got gold vinyl. I went through Noiseland. They did this. Dan Migler there does the design. And he did this almost like an old Art Deco kind of fake record label.
Okay.
And it turned out we recorded
cool.
it all to tape, all live. And it was this is exactly what I want to sound like. So from there, we gigged and gigged and gigged. And I would do, it's a nice group because it's very modular. So I did a lot of duo gigs with, like, at the time, Anna was a cellist. I would open for people, play rock clubs, wherever.
So your other project that I wanted to talk about was this record club that you've got.
Yeah. So
Tell us about that.
That
you
was
and your wife, of course.
Yes,
Hannah.
me and
Okay.
my wife. And I really, like, so I kind of had this idea, like, I don't know what I was doing that made me think about this, but I was thinking, I think it was remember when all of a sudden you couldn't get a vinyl record, like some plant blew up in Europe, right? Or Japan or somewhere. Someone picked up the slack, but it was like, what's going on? And I was talking to a friend and they said, oh, well, you can do short runs on these lathe cuts. And so I thought, well, that's interesting. So I looked up lathe cuts, and granted, they're not like really hi-fi. A lot of them are mono. Some of these machines are refurbished from like the 40s or 50s. But I stumbled on this guy named Mike Dixon, who lives in Tucson, Arizona. And he has built like a ton of small labor of love businesses around restoring these. And he's kind of, he's probably maybe in his 30s, 40s, something like that. But I just cold called him, right? And I started thinking about what I wanted. And I don't know what led me to think this, but I thought, it'd be really cool is to have one of these. And then make short run records of like eclectic music, like find eclectic things. Like, so because it wouldn't really fit, like if you brought in a full on cool band, it's not the fit for that unless you just want a nice merch item, like a collectible merch item.
Yep.
And so then I like started thinking, it'd be really cool is to, like, along with a lathe cut, you do it quarterly, you make a lathe cut, you get visual artists, you make a book to go with it.
Yeah.
And you give people a print, and you make it like, like one of those beautiful box sets you see at, like, say, the Walker Art gift shop or something.
Oh.
So you get down there, he goes, come down, buy it from me, and I'll show you how to do it. And I said, okay. So me and Luca flew down there. We spent like 10 hours with him in his studio. He taught us how to do it, and it's not super complicated, but you take some fine adjustments, and then once you have it, you can kind of get a run of records, and he taught me, he kind of said, Chris, you kind of want to set a different expectation. You want to sell it as an art object. And I said, that's kind of perfect with what we're connecting it with. He said, because, I'll get people who are like, they want to, and I too like really beautifully pressed 180 vinyl records, but it's a different thing. It's different. I said, can it sound like an old Billie Holiday record or something? He said, it'll sound better than that because there's better amplification and equipment to put in front of these now than there was back then. So they're beautiful. And they're mono, and he taught us, and he's the one who said, let's make them square. He said, I always make them square because it sets a different expectation. If you got a round record that looked exactly like, say, like my Half-Speed Master of Kiko by Los Lobos or something, you're expecting this amazing sound, and with the square, it's like, that's very charming. It's like, and then when you put it on, it harks back to the old flexi discs, like from cereal boxes.
Yeah, it kind of changes the expectation a little bit. Yeah.
And I think that's worked really well, and I think I've gotten better at it. So it's every one of those lathe cuts. So we'll usually find an artist. The next one coming up, like we have one coming out next week. Oh, wow. And it's the third volume, third quarter, and the theme is apophenia. That's another thing. They all have themes. So then we tell the artists, what do you think of, look up the word, here's the dictionary definition of apophenia. It's to see patterns in things that maybe there aren't patterns. So it leads to conspiracy theories. But sometimes there's real fun, positive things, like Salvador Dali used apophenia, called it his critical paranoid method, where you just see things and then paint around it and make artworks that way. And our next one is Jeremy Ilvasacker.
Oh, cool.
And so he kind of came in the clutch. I knew I wanted to do something with him, and he said, Chris, I have so much stuff that you could just give me a theme and I'll send you something. So we were going to do something else with modular synthesis, but Luca got sick. Luca was going to kind of lead that one, and he got sick, and I was like, there was no time. So I said, let's go to Plan B, and called Jeremy. That day he sent me something.
Oh, wow.
Like
okay.
2 little pieces, and they're just his more abstract. You know, he gets on his pedals, and it's just cool shit.
That's
very
awesome.
cool. And so he sent us a couple pieces. So I've been cutting those every day. I think I have 75 right now.
How do you, so you have a website and folks can subscribe for the updates, and then they can also subscribe to get the
get
art,
the thing.
right?
Yep.
Tell us about like what, you just like sign up online on the website. Can you tell us where people can find
so
the
go to
club?
dadaduenderecordclub.com. It's as simple as that. It might even come up under dadaduende.com.
Okay.
Because I think we grabbed both of those URLs.
Okay. Those weren't taken already.
Right.
That was right. Okay.
Right. Although I think there was one clothing store in like Buenos Aires or Chile or something that was Dada Duende.
Oh,
it was like a gift shop or something.
When is the next Dust of Suns show coming up?
So we're playing that new club, the Berlin.
Oh, cool.
On
Okay.
April
When does that open?
13. It is open.
Okay.
So you went. Have you been there?
Paul,
Paul?
you were there,
I
right?
went there. Yeah.
Did you see Jeremy there? Yep. So he
Very
was.
cool.
And Jacqueline was at that gig, and she said, "Oh, it's great, tiny
Okay.
stage, but we'll figure it out." And
Yeah.
So that's on. Let me make sure I got that date right. Is April 13th a Saturday?
April 20th is definitely a Saturday.
So it's the 13th.
Yeah.
April
Awesome.
13th.
Well, that,
Come down. I haven't been there yet, but
Okay.
I've been talking to their music supervisor guy. or
Okay.
Booker.
yeah, I've heard really good things.
Yeah, me too.
It's exciting. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us
Yeah,
today.
thank you so
It's
much.
really
I hope
great
I
having
didn't
you here.
blather on too
No,
much.
not
here.
at all. No,
Okay.
that was super good stuff.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.